So last time we saw the way that God would appear to Mary, and then, of course, how Joseph would be convinced in a dream and would accept his wife Mary, though she was with a child, which was not through him. Now, if we look at the Gospel of Luke, we'll find what happens and how they would actually come all the way to Bethlehem. There was no place in the inn, and Joseph and Mary would give birth to a child that day in a stable, and how the angels would come. But having said that, Matthew's Gospel, like I said, was more about the kingship of God. And he completely ignores that and directly comes into the visit of the wise men from the east. Okay. Now, I titled this as a plot to kill. Ever since the birth of Jesus, Satan had only one thing: to destroy and to kill him. Satan also did not know that crucifixion was the reason for which Jesus would come. So, at all other times, Satan could never touch him, because no weapon that is forged against us can actually prosper. But when the time came for Jesus to die, he would willfully give his life. So it says, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod. So who was the Herod? Herod was, you must remember, was not ideally from the line of David. He was not meant to be the king of Israel. He actually was not even a proper Jew. He was actually an Edomite. And if you know, Edomites were basically a descendant of Esau, Jacob's son. But then he was very, very close to Caesar, and Caesar would just give him this job. So it says at the time of King Herod. So Herod was already a person who was very, very insecure, because he was not ideally meant to be the king. And it said, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star, and when it arose, and come to worship him. So how did the Magi, that people in Persia, come to know about the star? It's very easy to understand if you know that a lot of invasion took place by Nebuchadnezzar, and they were all part of Persia. So when the Jews were taken in exile to these places, they also took their books with them. So it's very, very possible that they already knew from the Old Testament, from the book of Micah, that a star would come and would reveal the Messiah. But they were people who were always seekers. And here it says in Numbers 24:17, a star will come out of Jacob, a scepter will rise out of Israel. A star will come out of Jacob, a scepter will come out of Israel. Again, as you say, it is a fulfillment of another prophecy, and that is something that Matthew would always do. Now, they were following the star. As long as they did not trust in their own wisdom, there was no problem at all. Somewhere down the line, they stop trusting in their own wisdom and they start looking at worldly wisdom. And what is worldly wisdom? A king should be born in a palace. A king cannot be born in a stable. So at that point, they forgot to look at the star. They went by common sense and goes into the palace. And when King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. So what happened? Herod is already insecure. Now, if some people come and say, we have heard that a king is born, obviously he was deeply insecure. So what does Herod do? He calls all the people's chief priests, teachers of the law, and he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. They all went back to the book of Numbers and says, in Bethlehem in Judea, they say, for it is written, what prophet is written, but you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. From out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. So it said it's not difficult, it has to be in Bethlehem. So this is in Micah chapter 5, verse 2 to 6. But you, Bethlehem, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will be rule over Israel, whose origins are old from ancient times. Now look, this is always true. Always wolves will try to protect their sheep. So when Herod called the Magi secretly, found out from them the exact time. So if you know, because he would kill the children, it was somewhere on 2 years back. And he sent to Bethlehem and said, "Go search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him." All lies. The insecurity of this man. Herod was such a crazy man that they would say it is better to be a pig than to be the son of Herod, because Herod would kill all his children. He killed his wife. Anytime he thought somebody was planning to go against him, he would kill him. And his insecurity was great, especially when he heard another king was there. He wanted to find him and kill him. So he tries to tell the wise men, "Please tell me where you found so I can also worship him." After they heard the king, they went on their way. And the star they had seen when it rose went ahead and went ahead until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. That is the most beautiful thing of grace. These people are following the star, and in between they stopped following the star. They went misled. They went to a place that made things dangerous for people, because now all the children would be killed, and they were searching to kill Jesus himself. But was God upset with that? No. As soon as they came back, as soon as they seeked him, the star came up again. It's very important for our own personal journey. There are times we backslide. There are times we forget God. There are times we do silly things. But God is still waiting to direct us back home. As long as you're willing to come and say, "Father, I messed up my life and I want to lead me back home." This is exactly what happened to the wise men. They messed up their life. They took a wrong route, ended up in the wrong place, gave the wrong information. People would die, but God still would restore them. When they come to the house, remember it was not in a manger, it was in a house. It very clearly said they saw the child with his mother Mary and bowed down and worshipped him. So if it was 2 years, obviously they will not be living in a cowshed for 2 years. It doesn't make sense. So they took a house. And remember the provision that God gave. He gave them gold, which would be necessary for the child when he goes to Egypt to live, to buy things. He'd give them frankincense, which is basically something that is used at the funeral to talk about the king's funeral, that he would be considered and given. And myrrh again was used as incense, during prayer. So understand, each one had a significance and each one of them was necessary. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. So they would understand that this was not a right man, so they would go by another route. Now, what happened to Jesus and Mary? And it says, when he had gone, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph. So the second time he's having that experience. Yet up he says, "Take the child and his mother, escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him." So he got up, took up the child and his mother during the night and left for Egypt. And he stayed there till the death of Herod. So was fulfilled that the Lord had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I called my son." Now, he says he got up, took the child and mother, went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Achilles was reigning in Judea in the place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And having been warned by a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee and went and lived in a town called Nazareth, so that was fulfilled and said to the prophets that he would be called a Nazarene. Again, another prophet fulfilled. So it says very clearly that very soon after the Messiah directed, an angel will tell Joseph and Mary that they should take their son and escape to Egypt. They would stay in Egypt, and when the time came, the king died, they would come back again. Now, what happens here? Now, Herod is very upset. Why is he? Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi. After a point of time, he was waiting the income. He was furious and he gave orders to kill every child who was under 2 years. Why? Because they had told him very clearly in the beginning itself that the star had appeared approximately 2 years ago. So he calculated that and he killed every child. And this was again to be a prophecy that was from Jeremiah 31:15. A voice heard in Ramah, weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children and refused to be comforted because they are no more. A voice heard in Ramah, this is the actual a Bible verse itself to make you understand it's true. So what is it? A voice is heard of people crying and weeping and mourning, and Rachel weeping for her children, because all the Jews are descendants of of Jacob, and Jacob's wife was Rachel, and refusing to be comforted, for they were no more. Prophetically, she could imagine that which would happen many, many years later. After Herod died, and after some time Herod would die, again an angel comes to Joseph in a dream, and he tells him, take your child and his mother, go to the land of Israel, for those who are trying to take the child's life are dead. So again a commandment, go back. So he got up, took the child and his mother, went to the land of Israel. So beautiful when you see how God planned. God knew each step, God planned each step. Here they're thinking they're going to kill uh, Jesus, but actually the time for his death was totally different, and it was planned by God himself. Now, when he heard that Achilles was reigning in Judea in the place of his father Herod, he was afraid. Having been warned in a dream, he withdrew and went to Galilee and lived in a town called Nazareth. So was fulfilled what was said through the prophet, that he would be called a Nazarene. So with that, we end this Bible study. So what did he realize? He realized that Jesus was actually celebrated as a king. Kings would come all the way from Persia seeing the star. As long as you follow the star, there was no problem. As long as you follow Jesus, there is no problem. The problem would come when you follow Jesus, but you also take the advice of the world for many, many things. And those may not be correct advices. So tonight, remember, God is a God who protects you. No weapon that is forged against you can prosper. Whoever plots against you cannot prosper. At the same time, you also need to remember that we should never lose focus on whom we are following. Do not be gone by the world and the standards of the world, but ensure that you follow the Lord himself. Thank you so much to of you who joined. God bless you.